These right here are the Allbirds Tree Dashers, and they're what I chose for my everyday running shoe. I've been wearing them for about 6 months, so I have a pretty good understanding of what I like about them, what I don't like about them, and if I think they're worth the $125 price tag that Allbirds has decided to charge for these. Now, I have been wearing these for about 6 months, and as you can see, I haven't even washed these for the review. They're still a little bit dirty from my workouts, and I figured that was probably the most authentic way that I could express the fact that I wear these pretty much on a daily basis to work out. I have worn these on long runs, under 5 miles. I've worn these to do CrossFit. I've worn them golfing. I've even worn them to hike up a volcano in Hawaii. And as you can see, they're still in pretty good shape after putting them through all of that over the past 6 months. So of course, the very first thing that I have to talk about is the looks. Now, that's what really drew me in the first place. Was I saw these online and I was like, man, these things look great. As you can see, Allbirds kind of went for a very sleek and slim design. Unlike most running shoes where I think there's kind of chunky parts where it's one color here, logo here, they went for a really understated design and it kind of all flows together as one uniform shoe. I picked these up in the quartz colorway and I think it looks really, really good. But of course, like everything else, it's going to come down to personal preference and whether or not you like this style and this look. But as for me, I think it looks really clean. There are actually a few things that make this stand out above some other shoe brands. Number one would be the lack of a tongue. Most shoes are going to have a tongue right here, but this is all just one cohesive shoe. And so you can see there's absolutely no tongue here. When you tighten it down, you're literally just tightening the mesh of the shoe. So there's not really a tongue here, which is a good and a bad thing. I'll get into the performance of it later, but as far as the look goes, I actually think it looks really, really good. And I kind of like that a little bit more than I guess what you would find on a normal running shoe. The other thing that I want to point out is, as you can probably see here, it's pretty wide. When I'm standing and looking down at my feet, it just looks wider than other shoes that I ever put on my feet. And I think that's actually a good thing for people that have bigger feet. I'm a 12 and a half, but I tend to have a little bit wider feet and I usually order wide if I can. And these are extremely comfortable because honestly, they just seem and look a little bit wider than what you would normally find on a different running shoe. So that's something that I actually really like about it because people with bigger feet are going to find this a lot more comfortable and it's very stretchy with that mesh material. And so your foot's gonna have a little bit extra room to breathe, and that's pretty good for people that have trouble fitting into normal regular shoes. All in all, I think Allbirds did a fantastic job designing this. I think it looks really, really good and is a great form factor. The only question left remaining is, does it actually perform? As far as performance goes, I do have a couple of thoughts on these from wearing them for the past 6 months. Number one, the lack of a tongue is actually not a bad thing. I was really worried that when you tightened it down over top of your foot, that it would not clamp down enough and that your foot would have a little bit too much wiggle room and you wouldn't be able to get a really tight tie because these things were going to be loose and there was just no tongue to tighten down. But actually tightening the mesh works really, really well. And I've had absolutely no issues with my foot slipping out or whatnot. At the beginning, I was a little bit confused because I wasn't tightening them enough and my heel was slipping out a little bit. But I figured out I just needed to tighten them up a little bit more, be a little bit more conscious about making them tight. And my foot goes nowhere. So the lack of a tongue, actually not a bad thing. One area that I think I might have to ding them a little bit on is cutting. As I mentioned earlier, it's got that mesh lining, but it's a little bit stretchy here on the side, which is fine. But if you're doing really hard cuts, your foot will move around a lot. And as you can see here, that's not the greatest thing when you're cutting because there's just too much movement and it really throws you off just like a little bit. So if I had to ding them in one space, it would probably be the fact that the lining moves too much and it makes it really hard to make sudden movements when you're going side to side. Another very small gripe that I have with these is that when you're wearing socks, if you're going for that no-show look, it's a little hard to find socks that you can wear with these that are still going to be comfortable. The reason for that is, as you can see, it's got that pretty low swoop right there. And so if you're wearing no-show socks, they're not going to show, but this is a pretty strong heel. And so when I was hiking up the volcano in Hawaii, I was wearing no-shows and it just rubbed the back of my foot raw because there was just a little bit too much movement there. So finding the right socks is very difficult. I think Allbirds' main thing is that you can wear all of their shoes without socks, but I'm not brave enough to do that because it makes your foot sweat a little bit, and I think your shoes stink a little bit more as well, and so I tend to always wear them with socks. I'm not brave enough to do it without. Now, a few areas that I really do have to give Allbirds the credit for is comfort. Allbirds has been known to make the world's most comfortable shoes, and let me tell you, with these Tree Dashers, they did not stray away from that at all. These are definitely the most comfortable workout shoes that I've ever had, and I wear them even when I'm not working out just because they're so comfortable to walk around in or go shopping in and whatnot. I think they did a fantastic job as far as comfortability, and that really comes down to two reasons. Number one is the sole. As you can see, this is a pretty massive sole, and it really feels like it when you're standing on it. It definitely feels like you're a couple inches taller, just because of how thick this actually is. But I think it's a good thing. It's really, really comfortable, and it provides a lot of extra cushion for when you're running, when you're working out, when you're doing anything and everything. It just feels really nice having this massive layer of cushion. And so I actually kind of like the fact that there's a big amount of sole on here. It's really, really comfortable. Now, having a really thick sole is a good thing, but one feature that I'm not so fond about is actually the bottom of the sole. As you can see here, the lining is a little bit shallow and doesn't provide a ton of grip. There's a lot more grip in this than there are in the Wool Runners, so I will say this is much better than the Wool Runners as far as traction goes, because my Wool Runners, I'm slipping and sliding all over the place. But these, I think you could have had a little bit more grip. So if I had to critique the sole on one thing in particular, it would be the fact that the grip is a little bit lacking. But it's really not that bad, and it hasn't caused me really any trouble whatsoever. I just think that there could have been a little bit more, but definitely not a deal breaker. And all in all, I still think the sole of the shoe is really, really well done. The second thing that I really like about it is the insole. They did a great job with this. I think it's the same insole that they have on the Wool Runners, although I will say that this feels a little bit more elasticy, so I think it's a little bit higher quality since it's meant to be in an actual running shoe. So I really, really like this, and honestly, these shoes are really comfortable for somebody like me that has really, really high arches. I've always struggled my entire life with finding shoes that were good for my high arched feet, and these are really, really comfortable, and comfortable enough that I wear them every single day, and I've never had any issues with my arch support. So that's another huge plus to these, is for people that have wide feet with high arches, these are winners. Now, my final verdicts about these shoes. Do I think they're worth the $125 that Allbirds is pricing these at? And my honest opinion is yes. I looked at these versus Adidas Ultra Boost and versus some of the Nike shoes, and while those are really, really great options, I wanted something that stood out a little bit more, but didn't really sacrifice much of the performance. And that's what really landed me on these Allbirds Tree Dashers. Before I even bought these, I, like I'm assuming most of you, did a little bit of research online to see if these were actually worth the $125 and if I could use them as my daily workout / running shoes. And I looked at a lot of really big running sites, and these garnered really, really high praise from them, which was surprising to me because Allbirds is not really known for their running shoes. People ran marathons in these and said that they held up great and were extremely comfortable, and that was enough to sell me on purchasing these and giving them a try. And after 6 months, I am absolutely sold and will probably be picking up a couple more pairs. These things have held up great over the past 6 months, and they're just as comfortable today as the day I got them. So I could not be more happy with my decision to purchase these. And in the $125 price range, there's some really solid competitors out there that I don't think you would be disappointed with purchasing. But if you really want something that's going to stand out and is not one of your traditional name brands, I think these are a fantastic option if you're going to be doing more light running, like under 5 miles, or just some HIIT workouts, some CrossFit. I think these are a really, really good option for that, and I highly recommend you check them out. I will have a link to these in the description below if you want to check them out and pick them up. I'm not sponsored by them, unfortunately. I would love to have plenty of pairs of these, but I'll put that link in the description so you can go ahead and search through their vast variety of colors and pick whichever one works for you. If you enjoyed this video, I know it was a long time coming. Thank you for supporting the channel. It means the absolute world to me. You guys have been fantastic on the most recent videos, and just be on the lookout for more videos like these in the future. If you enjoyed this type of content, please consider dropping a like, hitting that subscribe button, and I am pretty close to 1,000 subscribers, which is fantastic and very exciting. I might even do a cuts giveaway at 1,000 subscribers, so stay tuned for that. But once again, thank you guys so much for all the support, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Thanks, peace.